Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Ferry Hawks baseball. Come out to the ballpark as the Ferry Hawks welcome in the Charleston Dirty Birds May 5th through the 10th. Grab the kids and come on out. We kick it off on Tuesday, May 5th with Cinco de Baseball with $5 tickets and $5 food and beverage specials. And we end the week as we celebrate all moms on Mother's Day. Moms get in free. Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Good afternoon, world. This is Madam Adams, Madam Cindy Adams from the New York Post as well as WABC. I have been on WABC since it began, when it was a 10-cent station, and it's now multi-million dollars, billion dollars all over the world. And I began on the New York Post back in 1981. It was the Shah of Iran who put me there. That's another whole story. I have met some royals before. Camilla, I met in London. She was very pleasant. She was not arched. She was not full of herself. What she said to me when we were doing our interview, she said, the worst part of all of this, it sounds so great and it looks so beautiful and everybody bows to you and you're really so impressed. But the truth is, it's tough on your corns. It hurts your feet. It hurts your plaster bands. It hurts the fact that you need to sit down. She said the worst part of it is the shoes and the walking and the standing. This is when she was a brand new queen. And she said, the worst part is when I finally get home, the first thing I do is throw off my shoes. So I said, well, does the king massage your feet? She says, well, I'm not saying he does, but what we do is we take care of one another. And it's my feet that swell, and it's really bad. So that is the Camilla you didn't see or hear this week. When I met the Queen, and I have Queen of England who is now not with us, I met the Queen a couple of times. Once I remember she was walking with an equerry. The equerry was in fawn gray, and she had her handbag schlepping from one wrist, as she always did. And when she changed the handbag from one wrist to the other wrist, it was a message to the equerry, move me to the next person. So they had their own way of signaling what Her Majesty wanted. The equerry was always in fawn gray, was always standing right alongside Her Majesty, and always knew when she changed the purse, it's when she wanted to get the hell away from whoever was boring her at the moment. Diana. The very first time I met Princess Diana was in Brooklyn. She was Princess of Wales or something like that, and the Welsh were having a game, and she was the royal patroness of the game. So she was here in Brooklyn, and she and I did a very long interview. But what was interesting was I wanted to wash up. I had gotten some ink on my hands. And so I went to the ladies' room, and they didn't let me use the ladies' room because it was cordoned off for the princess. In other words, if you had to use the can, you couldn't use the can while the princess was here because there was a special cleaned out can for her. Now, I know that the Queen had her own ladies' room. It traveled with her when she went wherever she went. But when I saw her, she was walking on her own grounds. So she just told the equerry what she wanted. But Princess Diana had her own ladies' room. Isn't that wonderful? You get to be a royal person and you can pee all by yourself. I mean, really. It's terrific. Royalty is terrific. Okay, I'm going to go on. Other things. Be still, my heart. You got to exhale. Breathe in, breathe out. The Tony Awards are upon us. So, 'tis a time to curl up on the couch, hug your dog or whoever might be available. Watch CBS from 8 to 11 p.m. on June 7. Listen to Pink, who for some reason is this year's MC. Plunge into stale potato chips and know it'll be as exciting a night as celebrating your 35th wedding anniversary. Trust me. I know. But understand, not that we really care about the Tonys, but there can never be New York City without Broadway. No, cannot happen. Odds are Fauci will grow to 6 feet tall, 10 inches before that happens. So the question we're all asking is, ¿Qué pasa? What's happened to the former Great White Way? Biden will play racquetball before Broadway gets narrower. I do not know what is going to happen to New York City if there was a possibility, remote, that they would get rid of Broadway. Ain't gonna happen. Bicycles will soon be allowed no closer to New York City than Toledo. That might change. You can forget our filth, garbage pickup, double parking, scaffolding, sky-high rents, traffic, stores shutting, pharmacies closing, doctors disappearing, one or two politicians you temporarily trust, schools affected, medical care ended, impossible taxes, gasoline costlier than hookers, outdoor restaurants under bus wheels, homeless and homicides, and whatever happened to Madison Avenue that everything's closed, and law courts overflowing, and banks shutting, and teachers quitting, and Paul's pocketing, but never minus the Great White Way. Never. Even though traffic's so bad, you miss the first act just trying to get there. A problem with why it's happening and things are not going well, and shows are closing, or revivals are reviving. The problem is money. It's always money. Cash, investments, prices are too high. If you can't afford bread, a ticket to Broadway's latest hit, Cats, the Jellicle Ball, and if you know where to go to wangle a discount, you ready? If you do that, you could now get $94 off. $94 off a theater ticket, a show ticket. Who the hell can afford that? Drinks at intermission cost. Transportation to get there costs. Food Costs. Intermission drinks are now the same price as your income tax. Celebrities are now getting into productions. They are putting on shows. They themselves. Why? Well, one reason is they're not grabbing work. Suddenly, who cares about them unless their names sound like Rock or Chip or some flash, naked, trash flash for cash? Parts of them, even coloscopies, don't show because all the rest of them is already hanging out. So, why, again, is Broadway so expensive that the average person can't go? Because I am told producing a show today is very expensive. Directors, musicians, assistants, designers, stagehands, wardrobe, teachers, choreographers, electricians, writers, agents, wig masters, makeup people, underwear people, wardrobe people, managers, tailors, dialogue coach, PR types for the out-of-work former big names, prop people, cleaners, and that little person who schleps in sandwiches between performances on Wednesday matinee days. That's all got to be paid for. Plus, there's a few for the writer, director, electrician, dialogue coach, prop guy, wardrobe helper for whoever was once a star, plus a partridge in a pear tree, and a dermatologist and your hairdresser. Also maybe an extra fin or more for the guy who garages your car while you're inside going broke. So, my friends, that is the reason for repeats, redos, snatches from London, or even crapola tried out so far downtown that it probably really opened in wherever's Colorado. Amateurs began here in 1665. Our theaters do not quite go back that far, maybe a week later. The first professional did whatever his thing was in New York in 1716. Records date back to 1750. The first play here in New York was Richard III. That was in 1752. The Merchant of Venice was 1767. And that was at what was the newly opened John Street Theater. Gents played the female roles. Apologies to the British king, whose Brits forced it shut. 1774 stopped all entertainments. Theater devotee George Washington, when not waterlogged in the Delaware, took part in amateur theatricals. Don't tell me you knew that. You didn't know that. However, do not look for President Trump to do a funny thing happened to me on the way to Mar-a-Lago. Ain't happening. Ticket prices in the old days when it began here, front row center, was 5 shillings. The gallery for cheapos, 1 shilling. Actors, like big-time John Wilkes Booth, earned $5 a week and were required to supply personal clothing. Stars schlepped from theater to theater. Admission, 25 cents, to as high for box seats as $1.50. And understand, please, we are not talking schleppers. We are speaking big-name stars like John Wilkes Booth. I mean, have respect. 1879 brought us Edwin Booth, as in the Booth Theater. 1890, Sarah Bernhardt, Lily Langtry. Prices went up. Tickets, 50 cents. Children admitted for 15 cents. But smelling the money brought the Schuberts. And when Broadway got classy, names like Gwen Verdon, Lauren Bacall, Mary Morton, Jessica Tandy, Warren Beatty, Sidney Poitier, the Great White Way, knew to go classy. Now it's expensive. Now, for a half inch of 50s, you can see whatever you want, but very few people want. And that's on Broadway. And that's only in New York, kids. Only in New York. It is a happy birthday to New York. We are now 250 years old. And congratulations to Mrs. Pelosi and her hairdresser, who were probably around here right from the beginning. Somebody should say that that was not nice to say. I understand that, but I said it. Look at New York's progress. When the foreign Dutchmen arrived, they spoke lousy English and wore schlumpy pants. Today, walk on the street and get what? Immigrants speaking lousy English and wearing schlumpy pants. So, I mean, we haven't really progressed. New York, land that we love, is still the place of opportunity. Everybody can become a taxpayer. Thanks to babbling zero crap dummy, our citizens might now wear this year's clothes and live on next year's earnings. Old? I mean, please. Even our TV news anchors' hairpieces have turned gray. Even Gracie Mansion, which ship owner Archibald Gracie built in 1799, is getting on. Even our former Governor Eliot Spitzer, now possibly, maybe, could be, he peels off his long black socks during sex. You won't remember if you weren't here in those days. He was finally arrested for doing something with hookers or something. And when they discovered he was having sex with his long black knee-length socks on, and it seems to me something should be taken off. So how might the mightiest city on earth begin? Well, since I was there at the start, I know it was 1663. To honor the Duke of York, it became the province of New York. We do not confuse this with England's bad boy, the Duke of York, who just got bumped and now isn't, so forget him. Our old beginning New York was unclean, disorderly, unlike today's modern, unclean, disorderly New York. But the Dutch trappers were aging. For birthdays, they wanted hot water bottles, plus no longer wanting their beaver pelts cash stashed inside those wooden shoes. They needed stuff unloading, money, guilders. So came navigating this new land. Streets, straight lines. Forget Broadway itself, which somehow ended up as straight as some of its commissioners. Wait, this is a story that goes on and on and on and on. It's time for me to take a little bit of a break. You can have a cup of coffee, and you can come back in 2 minutes, and I'll be here again.
Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.